Hey there, you're listening to Not Another TV Podcast. This is episode 66, the week of November 30th, 2024. My, my name's Drew Koenig. With me, as always, my co host, Mads Sassy. Mads, how we doing?
I am great. I just got back from vacation.
Very nice. Very nice. And how was Disney?
It was great. I got to immerse myself in the world of Star Wars at Galaxy's Edge, which was so cool. And I got to have a stormtrooper look me up and down and say in their voice, "You look very suspicious," while I was wearing a "Come to the Dark Side" t-shirt. So I found it very funny that he was like, "You look very suspicious." And the like handlers that walk with him were like, "No, look, she's on your side." And I'm just like, "Yeah, I'm wearing a dark side shirt. Come on, guy." And then I went to go take a picture with Chewie, and he didn't want to at first because I was wearing a dark side t-shirt. It was very fun. I was like, I know I am a 35-year-old adult, but in Galaxy's Edge, I am the 10-year-old that fell in love with Star Wars. I was gonna say it was cute. I went with my 7-year-old niece and my best friend, and it was my 7-year-old niece's first time being on an airplane, her first time being at Disney, and like just seeing her excitement was just so much fun. Um, and then we got to have breakfast with Lilo and Stitch, which was the cake topper to end all cake toppers.
Nice. Yeah. I think the last time I went to Galaxy's Edge, me and my sister heckled Kylo Ren from the stage.
Nice. We did see him walking, and Karen's like, "Do you want to get a picture with him?" And I go, "God, no, I hate Kylo Ren." Like, what are you talking? And she's like, "What?" And I go, he killed Han Solo. He can go bye-bye." And she's like, "Okay." I got to ride on Smuggler's Run, and I got to be the pilot, and it was so much fun. I was supposed to be an engineer, but the family that I got partnered up with, because I was a singleton and they were like a 5 group, said, they were like, "Oh, you've never done this before? This is your first time like really coming to Disney?" And I was like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Oh no, you need to be a pilot. Being an engineer is boring. Like, go be a pilot. I will trade you." And I was like, "Oh, really? Okay, fine." We were terribly piloted, by the way. Me and the little 10-year-old girl that was in this family were the pilots, and I have no depth perception when it comes to games like that and video stuff, and so we were crashing into things left and right. It's fine. It's fine. But it was a fun ride. It was like, "Oh, cool, I'm piloting the Millennium Falcon, and I'm sucking at it." Maybe that's the real reason Chewie had my number. It's probably what
Perhaps.
it is.
Perhaps.
But yeah, no, it was a lot of fun. I don't plan on going to Disney again for another like 2 or 3 years at the very least, because it's a very exhausting trip.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, a little inside baseball here. Podcast time. We've just recorded. In real time, we've been off for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I imagine some things have happened. So let's jump into some news real quick.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah, that's also why our lineup this week looks weird.
Yeah, I had a lot going on in my life, and Drew had stuff going on in his life, in their life, and it just did not work out well at
Yeah.
all.
Yeah. In a right and just world, we would have covered Arcane every week, but that's just not the way this shit worked out. So
No, it's not.
I wish we
So
could
we're
have talked. I wish we
so
could
we're
have talked about
lumping
it
it all
every week.
together this week.
Yeah, yeah, but you get what you get. So this is probably gonna be a long one. Um, but let's get into some news real quick. I only really have one piece of news here that even moderately interests me, which is that Yellow Jackets is coming back for a third season on February 14th,
Yeah.
which I am very excited about.
Happy
Um,
Valentine's Day.
Indeed, yeah. No, I can't even.
Happy Valentine's Day. Have some cannibalistic teenagers.
Yeah, I can't even like I am fearful of what the show has in mind for Valentine's Day, because that's such a specific, purposeful release date. Um, that like Valentine's Day has to play into like something the show's doing. So I'm very,
Mm,
very interested to see what that might be.
yeah. I feel you on that.
Yes, yeah. Um, but yeah, I'm so excited for the show to come back.
Um, well, one of my news things, and count me surprised at not at all on this one. Suits LA announced that they would have the Suits original actor Gabriel Mock come in on occasion to guest star on this new show, and it's probably because no one's going to watch it with Steve Amell. Let's be real here.
No.
People are only going to tune in for the weeks that Gabriel Mock is known to be in the episode.
Yeah, at this point, I think people are watching it in spite of Stephen Amell.
Yes. Yeah, he's supposed to come, but Gabriel Mock's supposed to come in for 3 episodes, and I'm like, yeah, that's because they knew they needed it.
Yeah, no, this is like the first season of The Flash, where like they had Felicity Smoke show up for like 5 episodes in the first season, because like
Yeah,
we need to like pad this a little bit. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm
yeah.
still not gonna watch Suits LA. So
Oh no, me neither. I will watch the clips of Gabriel Mock on social media, and that is all I will do.
yeah, like I don't care about Suits to begin with. Um, I especially don't care about Suits LA.
That's fair. I loved Suits, the original, but I feel like that's a show that's one of those things where you can't really make it into a franchise because its magic exists in its small little bubble. You can't really expand it and expect the same magic to be there. Um because it's a combination of both the location of the show, the actors, the writers, the chemistry between the characters. You can't like recreate it. And so I'm like, LA's not going to work, guys, but okay, good luck trying.
Um, Speaking of spinoffs, this was the other thing that I forgot that I wanted to mention here. Um, since we'll be talking about this a bit more later on in the show, um, the power behind Arcane, Riot Games, announced that they have 3 additional League of Legends based shows in the works.
I saw that.
In 3 other regions. I have more to say on this, but I'm gonna save save some of those thoughts for when we talk about Arcane later. But just on the face of it, that's very cool. Um, especially the show, especially the show they're pitching, set in uh, Mel's home country. Especially after the second season, I was like, yes, absolutely. 100%. Give me, yeah. Yeah, you want to give me a show of like Queen Mel? Yeah, sure. I will gobble that up. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. I think just on the basis of like Netflix is getting in like the Arcane game more, like
Mm.
really doubling down on Arcane, I think is good and cool. Which with of course further caveats that I'll talk about later.
Yeah. And the one last news piece that I wanted to mention is they finally recast Zeus in Percy Jackson um to be played by Courtney B. Vance. You know,
Oh yeah.
as we know,
Oh,
it
that's
was
good.
originated by Lance Reddick, um, who sadly passed. So that's an interesting casting choice. I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm keeping an open mind about it.
That's good casting. That that is one of those things where it's a good casting and also suspiciously feels like someone just cast someone that looks vaguely similar to Lance Reddick.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
um, but like casting Courtney B. Vance is never not a good idea. You know?
That's true. Yeah. Oh no. I of what I watched of Grotesquerie, which I watched episodes randomly here and there because I felt like I didn't miss anything between episodes, which is very big statement on how horribly written it was. But he was really good. And he was like one of the only good things about that show. And
Yeah,
he was in a coma for most of it.
yeah, yeah. Like even just like the People versus O.J. Simpson, like
Yeah. I
to be
mean,
able to get
listen.
him work for whatever he wants to do.
Listen, my first introduction to that man was Law and Order, and he was phenomenal on Law and Order.
Oh yeah,
Also, he's married to freaking Angela Bassett. Like, hello. That just makes you amazing on top of your skills as it is, sir. You're married to a queen.
you know what? That's something I didn't know, but also as soon as I hear it, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that tracks.
You're like, yeah, that tracks. It's something that that I only just learned like within the last year. Like, as much as I've loved Angela Bassett, I've never known who her husband was until like I saw some like event photo with her and Courtney, and I was like, oh, they're married? What?
That's like the last week, people realizing that Cynthia Erivo and Lena Waithe are married,
Yeah.
and it's like you don't even know, you don't know the lore, you don't know.
You don't know the drama that occurred with this relationship. Well, I'm also likening it to there's been a lot of like influx of new fans for 911, right? This year because
Mhm.
season 7 kind of brought a couple new people in, and so people like came in flocks for season 8. Well, Oliver Stark, who plays Buck, does this thing where he posts really cool behind the scenes photos to his Instagram every season, right? And in the hiatus at the middle of the season and the hiatus at the end of the season, he clears all those photos out of his Instagram. Well, he did it at the end of Wannabes when Wannabes aired, and people started freaking out. And I'm just like, guys, he does this every year. I know you're new here, but don't freak out. It doesn't mean anything. He's just a weirdo that like gets rid of all the behind the scenes photos on his Instagram after the portion of the season is over. Like, we don't understand it. It's one of those things that's just like there's no rhyme or reason to this. We've just accepted it. But it's so fun to see the new ones because you know they're the new ones because they're freaking out. They're like, Oliver deleted most of his photos, and we're like, yeah, welcome to the club, honey. It's always been this way.
That is all the news for this week. And small note, we will be we are inching up to the end of the year and our top 10 lists and our superlatives. Um, and for a quick reminder to all the people who have forgotten since last year, we will be doing um, best performance, best character, best episode, best line, best ship, biggest disappointment, show we're gonna miss the most, and best non 2024 show. With the new edition this year of uh, who had the best year in television. So, if you all have any suggestions, reach out to us on any of our social platforms at None of the TV Podcasts on Blue Sky, Instagram, TikTok, Tumblr, or email us at None of the TV Podcast at gmail.com and send any of your suggestions our way. Um, and currently, we are planning to record on December 21st. So be sure to send anything you have before then. But yeah, it is kind of maddening to me to be like, oh, the year's over.
Mm-hmm.
This is it. We got one more month to get through, and that's it. That does remind me. Matt, how are we doing with our New Year's resolutions?
Well, I've definitely watched more animated things this year. I can't remember what my other resolutions were. Let's just say I did one resolution. That was it, and it was to watch more animated things, and that's going well.
Yeah, totally. Mine went poorly. It really, really poorly.
Oh dear.
For a reminder, my New Year's resolution was to watch more reality shows, and it's just I don't know. It's hard to like. Truly, I tip my cap to the people who regularly watch reality shows because it's hard.
Mm-hmm.
It's so much harder than watching basically any other kind of show or like genre of show.
Yeah.
It's just is such an insane time investment and commitment. Like I just can't do it. I'm not built like that. Sorry. like especially like Big Brother, which had an episode like every fucking day.
Oh yeah.
I'm like,
I don't know who. I don't know how people watch Big Brother. Like, how do you have time?
yeah. Well, and then like the added insanity of like you have to watch the feeds too. You can't just watch the show. You also have to watch the feeds, and I'm like, no. I, do I have to like take a mortgage out just to be able to just to like become my job just watching this show?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I may have to just like accept that reality shows is just not a thing I'm going to be able to do. I just need to make peace with this fact.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I apologize to all of the reality aficionados out there. I just am not built like that.
Yeah, I'm not either. I keep track of reality TV from whatever shows up on my social timeline.
Right. I don't know. Talk to me when the ultimatum queer love comes.
Facts.
So let's move on into the goat. So the GOAT is a weekly segment we do here on the podcast where myself and Mads nominate a best TV character or episode of all time and pit them against each other on a poll on Blue Sky, Instagram, Tumblr, TikTok. Blue Sky, a humble request. Please add a poll feature.
Mhm.
Just a small poll feature.
Yeah, please
My
do.
kingdom for a poll feature. Uh, and also, like, minorly. Let me post a video that lasts longer than a minute. I can't. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to like your platform so much, but you're you're tying my hands here. Okay. Anyway, um, so we're still playing a little bit of catch up here. Our last poll that is still kind of running, but I think we have a good sense of how it's gonna go, based on early indications, um, from our um, superhero week, where I nominated X-Men '97, entitled "Remember It," and Mads, you nominated Smallville, entitled "Rosetta."
Indeed.
Um,
And
and
you're
it
winning.
looks, yeah, it looks like X-Men '97 is gonna take it. Um, TikTok is going really ham on that poll.
Yeah, I know.
So it looks like
Listen,
I
it's
will come away.
fine.
Yeah, it looks like I'll come away with that victory. Um, but we still have many more polls to get through. So
And this week is the series finale of Superman and Lois, so I feel like it's sad that I'm losing. My Superman pick is losing in the time of the ending of a Superman show.
tragic. You hate to see it happen.
Very tragic. Where's the justice? It's fine. I kind of knew I was going to lose against X-Men 97 because, like, come on.
Come on. Yeah. For this week, in honor of Silo coming back for its second season, um, we are talking about our best episode or character that took place in a post-apocalypse. You know, there's both. As I was looking through this, there's both a lot and also not that much.
Yep.
Like, there's a good variety of shows, but also just like the sheer volume of how many of them have come out in the last like 10 years is alarming and probably says things about us culturally.
Yeah, well, we all like to think about the world ending, okay, Drew? Come on.
Yeah, well, it did make me think of like the trends of like times when like a lot of vampire
Mm-hmm.
media will come out, and a lot of like zombie media will come out, and the way that culture like cycles through that based on like the mood we're in. Um,
Yeah.
so like in the 2000s, there was like a lot of vampire stuff,
Yep.
because that's where we were, and now we're in like a over like the last 5 to 10 years, we've been in the space of like, what if the world was ending and what would that look like?
And it's a combination of zombies and people in weird societies, things like that. Like,
Yeah, viruses and
yeah.
artificial intelligence is ruining the world, and but yeah, but when I was looking it up, there was like a lot of like really good examples. A couple like underrated ones that were, at least I'm not planning to mention here, and I doubt you will either. And pretty underrated ones are Jericho and Jeremiah. Jeremiah, a show I kind of adore. Uh, start that starred the late and great Luke Perry.
Mm.
Um, it's like a neat little J. Michael Straczynski show he did after Babylon 5. But yeah, like, and then like you have the other bigger ones, your Walking Dead, your The 100. a bunch of stuff.
I was looking as I was looking through the options. I saw The Stand, and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot they remade that. Um, and also I was reminded of a tweet like screenshot that makes the rounds every once in a while, where Stephen King in 2020 had tweeted out that like The Stand is not the coronavirus. Like he's like, unlike The Stand, you can survive the coronavirus if you do what you're supposed to, blah blah blah, whatever. And someone replied to him and was like, have you even read the book? Like, what are you even talking about? And it's like, bro, do you not know who you just replied to? The man wrote the book. People be stupid on the internet. It's fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, I was just like, oh yeah, I forgot they remade that. And then Karen and I went and watched the '90s version of it like a couple weeks ago, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, man, the '90s version was much better. But that's beside the point. Neither here nor there.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I went on a friend's podcast and talked about the '90s version, like right
Mhm.
before the pandemic. Like, oh god, I think it was like a month or two before the pandemic started. It was like January 2020, and then it immediately became not fun to think about.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, so Mads, since you lost or are losing in our last poll, I will let you go first with your nomination for the GOAT.
All right. So, as I said to Drew prior to us recording, I was like looking through these lists of shows, and I realized I've only seen all the episodes presented up to this point of maybe two of them, The 100 and Silo. And I was like, I've seen quite a bit of The Walking Dead, but I quit, partway through, whatever. So I was like, okay, this is going to be really hard. But I ultimately decided to go with The Walking Dead, because there is a character on that show that I still frequently think about, even though I stopped watching the show after, I want to say, either season 7 or 8. Um, and that is Carol. I remember watching the premiere of this show years after the show premiered. Like, I was late bloomer on The Walking Dead, but I started watching it, and I was very intrigued by her because she was very quiet, very demure, very scared of her own shadow because of her abusive husband. And I was like, how can this type of person survive in a zombie apocalypse? Like, she is not going to survive past season 1. And I had in my heart, preparing myself, this character's going to die because she is not very stubborn, strong-willed like a lot of these other people, right? And no, that bitch knows how to fight. She picked herself up, and she found some kind of strength, and it's a character growth and development that I feel is not seen on this dimension and level very often with television. We started off with Carol being this character that a lot of people probably thought was going to be gone by the end of the first season. And now she is so badass that everyone loves her, and she knows how to survive. And her chemistry with Daryl is one of the reasons I kept watching the show for as long as I did. Because I did feel like after some time that show got very repetitive, and it just was like, okay, why is this show still going? Um, but yeah, so my pick is Carol from The Walking Dead.
For a second, I thought you were going to pick Daryl. Then I thought I was going to be doomed. Um,
No,
Carol
no, no,
makes
no.
us.
I know a lot of people love Daryl, but like I like him secondary to Carol in the chemistry that he has with Carol, not because I like him as a character.
Right, right.
But no, I wouldn't do that to you.
Yeah.
Or maybe I should.
No, Carol makes us a little more balanced, I think.
All right, cool.
So my pick for the goat is I want to talk about a what I think is a criminally underrated show of the last few years. It might be one of the best shows of the last decade, um, and that's Station 11, a show that I think a lot of people saw was coming out and went, "I can't do that right now." Um, uh, so Station 11 came out towards the end of 2021, and is about a global pandemic that um, kills most people and kind of destroys and unmakes our world as we know it. And I think that was something that a lot of people looked at and went, I just can't. Sorry.
That's
I'm
fair.
sure it's great. I just can't. I, however, did watch it while it was airing and realized its brilliance. Um, and Station 11 is based on a novel of the same name by Emily St. John Mandel, which is a really wonderful and beautiful book. And she's a wonderful author. But the episode that I am going to nominate here is episode 9, entitled Dr. Chaudhary. And the really interesting thing about this episode, and kind of the show in general, is the first episode uh, builds this dynamic between Jeevan, played by Hamish Patel, um, and this young girl named Kirsten, who, as the show would go on, and the future timeline would be played by Mackenzie Davis. Um, and in the book, these are characters that meet and diverge pretty quickly. In the show, they spend a year together in the show's timeline. And so the interesting thing that like Dr. Chaudhary has to contend with is how do these two people kind of step away from each other? And I think like the way that this episode answers that, after it kind of written itself into this box, is really interesting. You know, and it encapsulates a lot of like what I really enjoy about Station 11 and what I think is really great about that show, which is like, and it's a show that I think is like really similar to like The Leftovers of another show that I could have easily nominated for this and fit pretty well. But you know, this kind of like hope in the despair, and then the despair and the hope, and the way those two things kind of bounce off each other really seamlessly, and like also the kind of the kind of comedy that has to like spring out of that, that's almost like unintentional. And Station 11 feels like one of those shows where like you watched it before the pandemic and then it happened and it felt different, but it was a show that was made after the pandemic. You know.
Mm-hmm.
uh, but it always has that, you know, it can never not have that contextualization of a post-COVID show. So it's always really interesting in that way. Um, but there's just like some really banger lines of like, as Jeevan gets mistaken for a doctor because he claims he is one, in a moment of like kind of panic, and then gets kidnapped into delivering a room full of pregnant women, and has to like be a de facto doctor, even though he is not truly one. And just like these little lines of like courage in the face of death is like the whole job, and like these little wonderful moments sprinkled in like that of like a like kind of catharsis through profundity. Yeah, if anyone hasn't watched Station 11, please go watch it. I think it's one of the best limited series that I think has ever been made. um Man, I could just keep going on about Station 11, so I'm gonna stop. So that is Station 11, episode 9, entitled Dr. Chaudhary. Also, Justice Emmy for Hamish Patel. Where's his Emmy? Where?
Yeah, he's talented.
He should have gotten an Emmy for the show, and he didn't. And that's a crime. You can go vote for either of these on Blue Sky, Instagram, Tumblr, and TikTok. You'll have 2 days to vote once it goes live. Um, and be sure to like and share it on all of your socials. Next week, we will be talking about um, our best kid TV character or episode, in honor of Star Wars Skeleton Crew coming out. So keep an eye out for that. And without anything else, let's move on into the main part of our show. So our first show for this week, as always, is Dimension 20, The Unsleeping City.
Yes.
Episodes 16 and 17, Times Squaremageddon. And so this was the big wrap up to The Unsleeping City. So, Mads, what did you think about this?
It was a great conclusion to this story. Um, and very apropos that we're talking about this week, considering it is the 3rd-year anniversary of Stephen Sondheim's actual passing. And god damn it, Brennan, I hate you for killing Stephen Sondheim prior to him actually dying. But also, I do appreciate that I watched the second half of this today, and I appreciate that at the beginning, at the beginning of all the episodes, when Brennan's like, "Say hi, intrepid heroes," and they all say hi, like blah blah whatever. And with the second half, we get oh my god, why am I blanking? I always blank on names. Hold 2 seconds. Um Lou, sorry, I was like having a moment. Lou says to Brennan, "Fuck you, Brennan. You just killed my best friend." Because at the end of the first half, marked the demise of Al- was it Alejandro? Yes. And so like it was just nice to have something different than what they normally do. And the rest of them were like, "Yeah, hi. Also, yeah, fuck you, Brennan."
Thank you, Brendan.
What did Alejandro do to you? Nothing. He just wanted to live his life, his 92-year-old life. And then like there was some like confusion over his age, and Lou looks at Brendan and he's like, "You created him. How do you not know his age?" But no, it was a great conclusion. I really appreciated the honestly the ups and downs of this battle and the uncertainty on whether or not they were actually going to win. Um because there were a couple times where I was like, "Oh my god, are they not going to win? Like, is this not going to go our way?" And I like that uncertainty. I like that. It's
Mm-hmm.
nice to have.
Yep. Yep. Let's talk about the format switch up for a second.
Yeah.
Um, but the second part when Brennan gets to just have like these one-on-ones with each of the intrepid heroes.
Hmm.
How did that play for you?
I kind of liked it. Like, it definitely threw me for a loop for a moment because I was like, okay, this is new, this is different. But I sat, but the more I like reflected on it after the episode was over, I was like, I kind of liked that, um, because it allowed these characters to really stand out individually in a way that the intrepid heroes, but also just these specific characters for Unsleeping City haven't really gotten to do before. And I like that. One of my favorite things with television, Dimension 20, movies, anything like that, I love character development. I love focus on characters and their own goals and their own skills. And so getting that one-on-one time was so exciting for me.
Yeah, yeah, and it allowed for like just some really banger moments. Like
Mhm.
I particularly think of the interaction with Rowan,
Yes.
which I think is the best one and the most like emotionally fulfilling, where like you just get to see this moment of acknowledgement from Rowan of what she's lost.
Mhm.
Um, that you wouldn't be able to get in a different way. Like this isn't a conversation that Rowan would ever have.
Yeah.
But just getting to see like what exactly she's lost and like the man she loved and like can't get back and like she gets to live forever and has to like continue on with that grief. Like it's so resonant. But also like that moment that moment when it reveals that Pete was able to see all of the different moments,
Mhm.
all of the different conversations, just so great.
Yeah, I also was not expecting to get very emotional with this finale. I just think between everyone, like being presented, each of them being presented the option of their American dream, right? And them turning it down obviously for the greater good. But also, the fate, Kugrash's sacrifice and Pete, his growth and
Mm-hmm.
just ugh. I was so emotional this whole finale, and I don't really, I mean, that's not to say I don't get emotional at all, but like I haven't found myself getting emotional over Dimension 20 yet at this point until now.
Right, right, totally.
It's like especially Kugrash, like I started off with Unsleeping City being like, "Oh, I love Pete. I love Pete. I love Pete. I love Sophia." But like Kugrash grew on me. I truly came to love that little rat man. Um and for him to, you know, eat the bagel and then use that to help his team further themselves, knowing that it's going to end him. Oh my god. I was just like, Kagrash, you've gone to the nice list. You've made up for all your past deeds. Like, I was crying, but also like, I want you to come back, Kagrash, please. And then at the end, where we hear about his sons, going to a sporting event together and leaving a seat open for him, like, stop. Hello, Vanellope. Sorry, my cat decided to crawl back on my face.
But like that's one of those interesting things in like genre storytelling where it's like, yeah, this character's dead, but also they're kind of not dead.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like Congrats became a part of everything, and you're like, that's kind of nice.
right.
So it's like it's one of those deaths where it's like the more you think about it, it's like the more interesting it becomes because it's like, well, how do you define death? Congrats is not what he was as we knew him. And he's gonna be something different. He's gonna be more and everything, and we're just like I think makes it hit a little more than just like a Cut Grush died, you know. but like, fucking Emily Axford just like trembling saying Congrash's name gets me every time.
Yes.
Emily Axford, you fucking asshole. There's a bunch of like really funny moments throughout this too, of like Wally becoming the new Santa Claus.
Mhm. I
Um,
loved that. I felt it was very perfect for Wally.
it's so good, but it's also like it's such an Emily Axford. Like I just kept thinking of during the fairy court where Sophia's like, nominate Wally. It's like, yeah, this is such a this is
Yes.
such an Emily Axford move of like just have Wally be Santa Claus.
Yeah.
But you're right, it's so perfect. It's just so good.
Like if they had made anyone else Santa, I would have been like, that's incorrect.
It's incorrect. Yeah, yeah, it's so excellent. Uh, Ricky Ricky giving Sophia's husband his axe.
Yeah.
I love that moment of the angels being like, "Why did you do that?" And just the shrug is so funny. Like that shrug from Zach is just so good.
He's like, whatever.
Yeah,
Because I wanted. It was very Ricky. It was very Ricky. He was like, because I wanted to.
I don't know. He's like, "Oh, it seemed like a good idea." Yeah, this was just such a great ending to this season, which is just I think one of Dimension 20's best campaigns.
Yeah, it truly was. Of the seasons we've watched, it's definitely the strongest one and the one that I've enjoyed the most. Um, and again, I attribute that to the setting being New York City, which is one of my favorite places. And the fact that I've always felt like New York City had its own like magic element thrumming underneath the energy of the city. And so like it just really fit into my thought process on, one of my favorite places. And so I just thoroughly enjoyed myself. And I love that the finale was New Year's Eve going into the new year because new year, new beginnings, new, rejuvenation, and feel like that was like really strong in the telling of this final battle.
Yeah, so just really strong stuff all around. Like going forward after this, we're going to be talking about Misfits and Magic. We're jumping around a little bit in the season order, but I think Misfits and Magic is going to be a really fun watch. It's very short and is our first non Brennan DM season.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah, but Brennan is a player, not a DM.
No, but like that's going to be so fun because we've seen what he's like as a DM. Now, what is he like being able to actively be part of the campaign?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot to say there.
Oh,
Um,
the chaos that will ensue.
yes, yes, but yeah, and it's a great table. Lou is also there, and Erika Ishii from um,
Oh, yeah.
es- um from Escape
Escape
is
from the
there.
Bloodkeep.
Escape from the Bloodkeep is there. So it's really good. It's very. I think we're gonna have fun with it.
Oh, fun.
Let's move on to our next show. Sex Lives of College Girls, which is back for its third season on Max. And the main reason that I am talking about it here is that these first two episodes are Renee Rapp's departure from the show.
Hmm.
And it is funny when when this was initially reported, they're like, Renee Rapp is going to be in a handful of episodes in the third season. I didn't think that a handful would mean two.
Hmm.
But that is what we've got.
Maybe they misspoke and meant to say a couple.
Yeah, I guess. So this first episode has Midori Francis, who plays Leighton's girlfriend on the show. Yeah, Leighton played by Renee Rapp, obviously. Sets up Midori Francis's departure in that first episode,
Mm-hmm.
and then that kind of sets up Renee Rapp's departure in the second episode. And I think Leighton's works a bit better than Alicia's does, mainly because like I don't think we don't spend enough time with Alicia in the first episode. Really, there's a kind of misstep there. Like we needed to like be in that a bit more, especially like as we know that like Leighton and like at the end of that episode, going into the second episode, like is going to the same city that her girlfriend is moving to.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I could have used a bit more of that relationship, even though we've seen a fair deal of that relationship up to this point. The second episode, I think is interesting because it's always fun to like judge like main character's departure, on the scale from like like Alex Krev to much more successful ones. And like Alex Krev being like one of the more disappointing character departures.
Right.
And where this finds itself. And I think it's pretty, center level. I do really like the way they handle Leighton's departure here. And it's fun how you choose to interpret it. It's all on the surface level, it is Leighton leaving the college, and on a metatextual level, it is a lot of the episode is Renee Rapp leaving the show.
Yeah.
And that got to me more than I thought it would. Like there is a conversation between Leighton and her dad halfway through the episode that like really pulls at some heartstrings, and then like Leighton having a conversation with the three other girls and like breaking to them that she's leaving. Like I think it's all really well done. And then there's the typical nonsense boy drama nonsense that the other three girls get dragged into, as with any other episode of Sex Lives. I don't know that I will continue. It is a thing of like I liked Leighton so much. Like she was the favorite part of the show. I think she was like the best player on the show. That I don't know how much I want to continue watching without that character, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Renee Rapp was just so good on the show, and was really good in her final two episodes. So we'll see what a non Renee Rapp version of the show looks like. Let's move on to our next show, which is Arcane season 2. Um, which is back after 3 years to close
Mm-hmm.
out the series. Let me start this off really quick by picking up what I was talking about in our news segment
Mm-hmm.
about the announcement that there are going to be 3 more anime shows set in the League of Legends world. That's great. Like that is objectively good news. What I wished is that we weren't so eager to get to those other shows. Um,
Okay.
because I think the thing that this season most suffers from is writing and pacing. And I wish that instead of like, you know, the team moving on to work on these other shows, we could have like gotten more of this show. Like, I'm not in this to watch the other Arcane shows.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this to watch this show. And I wish that this show had been allowed to spend more time to develop because there is, I think there is a certain amount of like this show is being speed run,
Yeah.
you know, um,
Mm-hmm.
where I think like in the first season, Act One to Act Two to Act Three felt really seamless, and
Yeah.
um, the pacing was almost perfect. Here, it feels like we have a lot of stuff that we got to get through because that's all there's gonna be.
Yeah, and I feel like that was my biggest complaint from this season was that we didn't get to spend time in the moments with these characters because it was like, whoop, got to move on, got to move to the next thing, got to jump to the next big event because we have to get everything done. But even then, they still left loose ends and things undealt with. And it's like, was it really worth it?
Right, right. Well, I think even like a major complaint is um, a we don't spend enough time with Vi, which I think is a perfectly valid
Absolutely. Yep.
criticism to make, and also we spend all of Act Two of Caitlin being this fascist leader, and then she makes a turn because the show needs her to make the turn. You know,
Right.
but there's not there's not a conversation about that. Like there's no like build up to that. It is
There's no motivation behind it. It's very forced.
yeah. Like
Um,
I understand the motivation. I understand like the importance that Vi has to Caitlyn and vice versa.
mhm,
Um, but it's very hard to go from like that last moment of them in Act One,
right.
and then to go to episode 6 of when they meet back up, and it's like there's a lacking of connective tissue, and it's a big pacing problem.
Yes.
But like it's the problem because Act Two has to spend so much time dealing with like Vander,
Mhm.
um, that I think it lets other things fall to the surface, and it wants and on the opposite of that, like it has to demonstrate how dark Caitlyn has become,
Mhm.
but it still wants her to be able to flip
Come
back
back.
to that good.
Yep.
And she is still the good. She is still like the Caitlyn we recognize. We kind of understand the steps. We can see like the path that she's taken and being taken down. And like there is a certain comedy of like some breakups are so bad that you become the um fascist authoritarian figurehead of a
I mean, listen, it's the new haircut.
yeah, no, totally. Um yeah,
No,
yeah,
I totally get what you're saying. I felt like yes, we did understand the motivations, but they didn't explain the motivations well enough. I felt like the storytelling was just like, well, we hope you understood where she's coming from and this is why she turned. So like it the like we've been saying, the pacing just did not match up. And I was funny because I watched this and then I watched this YouTuber do a recap, and the moment that Vi and Caitlyn get back together, he's like, "Oh, I guess they're kissing again. I guess they're back together."
it's back together. Yeah, yeah,
That's kind of how it felt. It was just like, "Oh, okay, this is where we're at. Okay, cool." That came out of nowhere, because it kind of felt that way because we're just being pushed from one moment to the next. We're not given the time to really focus on each of these pieces of the web that need to be focused on. Um, and I just so wish they'd gotten at least a third season so we could have split up some of season two between two seasons so that we could have had more focus and more time with the characters that mattered the most and given the attention to those characters that didn't quite get the attention they deserved.
right, right. Yeah, because the problem is the second season wants to focus both on, well, not both, but on Jinx, on Vander, and on
Mm-hmm.
Victor.
Victor, yeah.
And Victor become like Victor isn't a problem. There's just too much of that in the third act. Like it's too big.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's too big of a thing, you know? Like
Right.
it can't be contained. Like and it's kind of the problem with the season of like cool, we had a magic system that we understood.
But now we're throwing it out the window.
Yeah, and now we have an entirely different system.
Despite all criticisms I have of this season, the art is still so impeccable, so
Oh,
compelling. I my I lost the ability to breathe a few times because it was just so beautifully made.
yes. Like
Ugh.
the fight scene between Vi and Jinx in the third episode and Caitlyn and Savika
Oh
is
my gosh.
God, it's just exquisite.
So good.
Um yeah, and there are little moments of that like all throughout the season. It's like you are going so much harder than you need to. Like the sequence in the first episode um where they're with the funeral and everything
Yes.
is in like charcoal grays. And
Hmm.
the only thing in color are Caitlyn and Vi.
Yep.
It's so evocative, it's so powerful. And it just looks beautiful as hell.
Like the art itself is its own story.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Um, yeah, and like on top of that, even like all the complaints that I have about the season, um, God, I just really enjoy like all of the little moments.
Hmm.
They're so enjoyable. Like even if like, and like this is kind of another problem with the season of like Vi and Jinx are just good after like an episode.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
but like the little moments between the two of them are so good.
Yeah.
Like those little moments in like the fifth and sixth episodes. Or it's like
Hmm.
God, it's just such a good sister dynamic.
And I also want to talk about the fact that this season we get a bit more of the Jinx and Echo dynamic, and I am here for it 100%.
It's a
I
great
love them.
the like Elseworlds episode in episode 7 of like the Jinx that could have been
Yes.
is so good. I do have gripes with the people who are suddenly like, "Oh, a straight ship, thank you, please," and have hard turned against Caitlyn and Vi.
You
Is
can go fuck yourselves.
Yeah, is annoying. Like here's the thing, and the seventh episode is great. Jinx and Echo work in a microcosm.
Yes.
They work for that episode, and that Jinx is so good.
Hmm.
Like the vision of like the Jinx that we could have had is excellent. It is that thing of like this is not a movie that I'd like whatsoever, but like that moment in the Rise of Skywalker
Okay.
where you go from like Kylo Ren to Ben Solo,
Hmm.
and you're like, I like Ben Solo so much.
But I hate Kylo Ren. Yes.
Yeah, where you're like, I mean, and to be clear, I love Jinx to death,
Yeah.
but Powder is just outstanding.
Yeah. And I appreciate that they changed the name, like to very much distinctly say this is the same person, but this is who they could have been.
Yeah, yeah. And God, just all the props to Ella Purnell,
Mm-hmm.
who, like, God, just again, I've said this once, I'll say it again. Like, one of my favorite performers, just does outstanding vocal work this season. But also, I think a lot of people do. I think a lot of the cast does really great work this season. Like, I think Haley Steinfeld has some really great moments as Vi, and Katie Leung as Caitlin. Also,
Yeah.
like, I think Katie Leung really stands out this season.
Well, yeah, we get to see more of Caitlyn. You know what I mean? We get to see who she who she is, who she can become. We see more of her motivations and, how important certain people are to her. And as much as seeing her go deep dark fascist level, it was fun to watch because we were like, okay, this is development in its own way. I'm curious to see where this is going.
Right, right.
She did a phenomenal job.
Yeah. And like that reunion between Caitlin and Vi in the 6th episode, which
Yep.
I agree with you. It's too fast, but like, just like, again, like, just like that sheer little moment of their reunion, like calling Caitlin a rich, unhinged mongoose is so funny.
Hmm.
Like, I've thought I've thought about it every day since.
Yeah.
Like, I saw one post of someone comparing Caitlyn standing to a mongoose, and it's just so funny. But like, that entire exchange is just so good, and those two have excellent chemistry. They just have such good chemistry.
They do.
I feel like we should talk about Vi's new cut while we're on that subject of angry oil slick. Yeah, it is a look.
It is a look.
It is, but like, also, I mean, that kind of, like, that whole, like, underground fighting thing kind of just goes back to, like, our main point of, like, this is too fast. Like, we breeze past Vi's, like, underground fighting thing, like, too quickly.
Right.
We needed more time to, like, really dive into that.
It's like that
But
it's like that social media trend of, I feel we've moved on from X, Y, and Z way too quickly. And it's like, so much of Arcane is, I feel like Arcane season 2 is, I feel like we moved on from X too quickly.
yeah, but I do appreciate that in the midst of all of the kind of insanity of, like, really the last half of the season, the show did make space for, like, uh Caitlyn and Vi with their sex scene,
Hmm.
which is just a truly all time, like, and it is kind of funny because it's like, you're like, it just keeps going. I felt like when I was watching, I was like, any second now it's gonna cut away.
Hmm.
Any second. And I'm like, oh, it's still going. It's still going. It's okay. This is the part. Nope, it's still going.
Yeah.
Um but again, it's a beautifully animated with, like, all of the respect it deserves. Did you hear that there was, like, an even longer cut of that?
No.
The like, the main guy behind this was talking about, um they'd originally done, like, an even longer version of this, and someone, like, slapped their hand and it was like, that's too much. You gotta. But given like how long this scene is already, I'm like, how much farther did you take this?
I need answers, please.
Yeah, like
Are we ever going to release the longer scene?
that. You know what? That is the question, and I'm so you know what? It's so funny you asked that because there is a petition going around that has many thousand signatures.
I mean, listen, the Taylor Swift fans waited a very long time to get the full All Too Well version.
Right. Yeah.
We could we know what it's like to wait for things. We'll wait. We know it's there. We'll find
Mhm.
it. We'll get it released.
Yeah. Yeah. Uh, but the big rationalization I've heard is that a more explicit cut of their sex scene would affect the rating of the games itself.
Meh.
Yeah.
Who cares? Give it to us.
That's the other big thing that I was thinking about of like I don't know how to break it to like a lot of League of Legends fans. We watched Arcane in spite of League of Legends.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of League of Legends fans are like taking a victory lap of like, oh, people really like our thing and we should, you know, have loyalty to it. It's like, no, no, we really didn't watch it because of League of Legends. I just don't know how to break that to
We watched for our own reasons that have nothing to do with the wider universe.
you. Mm-hmm. But so, yeah, I still really liked the season,
Hmm.
but yeah, it had a lot of problems.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was still good. I still enjoyed myself. I wish there was still more, but of course.
Yeah, I mean, this is still a show that will be on my top 10.
Hmm.
Also, I feel like we have to talk about Goddess Mel for a second. Mel kind of encapsulates like another weird thing about the season of like it very weirdly silos everyone,
Yep.
where it's like Mel's off doing her thing, and Jace, Echo, and Heimeldinger are off in this corner of the show, and Caitlyn and Vi are off in this corner of the show, and Jinx is off in her corner of the show. Um, so it's like when everyone like actually comes back together, it's like, oh, that's the season. That's been the entire season.
Hmm.
Um, the Black Rose as an antagonist is really underbaked. Where it's like, oh, they're here now, cool.
Hmm.
And Mel kicks their ass immediately, cool,
Yeah,
as she should because she's great.
absolutely.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that character this season, even with how isolated she was. Um, and the new character design for her is just so got just to talk about the animation again, like it's just so striking. Like the gold like almost paint on her, like it's just fantastic.
Oh my god, yeah, when she did that changeover to having that, I was just like, you just got 10 times hotter. I was like, I will bow down to you and do anything you need me to. Uh, You are gorgeous.
Just else. Duh. Well, let's continue on to our next show, Silo, which is back for its second season on Apple TV Plus. I believe 3 episodes are out right now. We've watched the first two. So what do you think about Silo?
I'm giving it time. you know, it the season just started, so to speak, but it's definitely a little slower than I don't maybe I just forgot season 1, like the pacing of season 1 cuz honestly I had to remind myself like what even happened. I was like, I know I like this show. I know. Wait, what were the big things that happened? Like besides the last moment of last season that I remember very distinctly because it was like, what the hell? It took me a moment when I was watching that first episode to realize that the people storming out of the silo was not the same silo that she had came out of. It was a different silo and it was years prior. But then when she's like walking through the wasteland and like she comes across all these dead bodies, I'm like, oh, okay. Now I get what's happening. Like it's showing a previous coup that happened, blah, blah, whatever. I'm very intrigued to see if more people from her silo um, believe that there's a chance out in the world. But yeah, what are your thoughts?
I really like the first episode, which is just a Rebecca Ferguson vehicle of like, come see how kick-ass this character is.
Yeah.
Who is just one of the yeah, I think one of the coolest characters that has ever existed. Just
She's so badass.
she cannot be stopped.
No.
Yeah, she deserves the world and everything. Yeah, and then the second episode, which has to just deal with the fallout. Yeah, this season is shaping up like it kind of reminds me of like some seasons of like Lost,
Mm-hmm.
where it would be like
The guy in the one cordoned off room listening to the music very much made me think of Lost. Um, it very much made me think of Desmond.
particularly like how like Lost season 3 starts, where it's like, all right, we got characters here, here, and here. So
Yep.
we're just gonna focus on these characters right now, and then the next episode is gonna be just these characters that dealing with the ramifications of the last season here. So that's a lot of what like that feels like to me. So like the second episode just being like, yeah, so here's the actual like implications and consequences of Juliet leaving the silo, and it is slow. I'll agree with you there, but it's also interesting because like we're now in a position as an audience to know things that they don't, so it's no
Mm-hmm.
longer just a question of like, can you get outside? Sure, you can get outside. You can't live outside, so you're in the same position. Like Juliet, we know Juliet is not in a better position because she got outside.
Right. Nope, she's not.
She's just in one silo and in another silo, and so like that does kind of raise the question of like, where does this series go? Because there is nowhere to go. But so like I am really enjoying like the political machinations and setting up forces and you know factions working against each other. Like I think all of that is really interesting.
It's definitely going to be interesting. I'm curious to see if she's going to end up back in her silo or if she's just going to continue being separate from her silo. I've not read the books, so I can't make a determination based on the books. Um, I have the first book in my audiobook queue, but I haven't read it yet. I mean, I would be fine with her not ending up back with her people. You know what I mean? Like it could work either way, I feel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, for now, I think it's a really intriguing start to the season, and like seeing like where this is gonna go. I think it's gonna be really rewarding.
And it was nice to also see a bit of a flashback with Juliet and like her first moments down in the silo when she left her father's home. Like that to me is very intriguing because again, I love character development. I love character focus. I love getting to see, these characters that we saw in the present, in last season, we get to see why they're so connected to Juliet based on their history.
Well, more on Silo at a later date. Let's move on to our next show, which is Teacup, is streaming on Peacock, and ran roughly around Halloween. And this stars Yvonne Strahovski and Scott Speedsman as the parents of a family who live on a farm. Strahovski plays a veterinarian, and Speedman
Who knows what
does
Speedman's character does?
he does something. I just not maybe he just works the farm. I'm not entirely sure, but
He's a stay-at-home dad. Come on, Drew.
yeah, something like that.
Hey, let me tell you, I've only watched the first episode of this because my brain was just like, nope, I can't focus on the intensity that you need to have focus wise for something of this magnitude, because you got to pay attention to all the little details. But I watched the first episode, and when Scott Speedman comes on screen, I'm like, I know this isn't the only thing you've ever done in your life, but all I can see is your character from Grey's Anatomy, and I'm wondering what you're doing in the middle of the woods.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I haven't even really watched his episodes of Grey's Anatomy. I just see them on TV all the time in previews and like in trailers and stuff. And I'm like, oh, hi, Scott Speedman. But again, I know that's not the thing he's known for, but
yeah. Whereas I have a lot of familiarity with Yvonne Strahovski from.
I know him from Felicity. That's the thing I knew him from.
Oh yeah.
But like that wasn't the first thing that popped in my head watching this episode. For some reason, it was Grey's Anatomy, which I have not seen his episodes of, so I don't know why that stuck in my head. It's fine. I'm fine.
But this is a horror series partly created by or produced at least by James Wan, and the unveiling of the horror aspect of this, I think, is really interesting. Where, as the series goes on, it becomes clear that a boundary has been erected around the farm, and anyone who leaves the farm will die badly, which is demonstrated a couple times throughout the course of these episodes. And the deaths are so gnarly and so entirely fucked up that it almost like there is like almost a kind of like visceral catharsis about it, in like the best kind of horror way of like it is so messed up, especially the first one that really makes you focus in and watch it. But as the series goes on, the plot goes from straight up horror to like sci-fi horror, and the ways that reveals itself, I think, is intriguing. And like what this show actually ends up becoming about is interesting. There's a certain silliness about it, um, but there's enough where like the ultimate antagonist is menacing enough to make up for it.
Okay.
So I think ultimately it is a very thrilling horror sci-fi show that sets itself up to do a second season if they want to.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say don't watch it. I guess.
No, I had seen mixed reviews about it. And so I was like, I'm gonna go into this watching it with my own opinion. Um, it's on my list to definitely approach, and I might end up tackling it with my roommate because we both had wanted to see it. So I will keep you updated on whether or not I do that.
Well, let's move on to our next show. Star Trek Lower Decks Season 5, Episode 7, entitled Fully Dilated. We have, once again, another episode involving a parallel universe.
Dude, but I love this parallel universe because my favorite character from TNG was in it.
Yep, yep.
We get Data as a purple Data. It was very
Purple
intriguing.
It's very good.
Purple robot Data. Which, again, he's already a android, so like it's very similar, but like also different. And so I'm just like, I love this. I'm very into this.
It's just Data. It's just the show wanted an excuse to do Data. But yeah, this episode does like a lot of like really fun like Star Trek sci-fi stuff of like,
Yes.
hey, what if you are on a planet where like in real time a second goes by, but on the planet a week is going by.
They end up there for months because Boimler spills his food on the board, and he can't push the buttons to get them back.
Oh, it's very good.
It's very in line with Boimler, and then the whole competition between
Tendi and Talin.
Tandy and Talin, where Talin has no idea that they're competing.
So
It's
good.
so like it's such a character study episode, and I love it. I loved it so much the entire time. Tandy is very like into I have to be better. I have to be better. I'm like, Tandy, I don't think Talin even realizes that you guys are competing. You're competing with yourself. Like there's no competition going on right here.
No, and the funniest thing is like Talin is just doing things on just like a vibe.
Right.
She's just like, this would probably be good to do.
She's like, this seems like this would be very helpful for this planet. I'm going to do this. And meanwhile, Tandy's like, I need to be the best science officer you could possibly be.
Meanwhile, Mariner is just like embracing her inner Boimler.
Yes.
Like, I'm so enjoying this season of like Mariner gradually becoming more and more Boimler.
I'm here for it. Because Boimler's actually becoming a lot more calm and a bit more responsible, and so it's interesting to see that shift because Mariner's always been kind of her own thing, but now she's taking on elements of her coworkers, and it's I love it. I'm here for
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Like the amount that she's so excited to be on a planet like the one that Picard was on, where he got to live a full lifetime, and she's like, I gotta start. I gotta start now.
I gotta do everything. I gotta get a partner. I gotta find love. I gotta do a family. I gotta do everything because that's what Picard did. And you're just like, babes, calm down. Just calm down. Just vibe. Yeah. Meanwhile, Talin's like, I'm just vibing. I'm just doing my Vulcan at its best, and I'm just gonna do what we can.
Yeah, yeah. And I love that everything that Mariner does just gets her thrown in prison.
Yes, it's so good because she's like trying so hard and getting nowhere.
Getting nowhere. Yeah, yeah. And the solve to that, I guess, is just Talin bribing the guards.
Yeah. Also, we need to talk about the one person on the planet that's like everyone thinks is the crazy uncle. And he literally sees them do the things that they're not supposed to be showing to the, pre-warp society. So he sees all these things and he's like, I have proof, and people are starting to believe him, and all of a sudden they just disappear and they're like, bro, really? Like they're like, you got us convinced, and then it's not real. But it was real. We're on the side of the crazy uncle. He wasn't crazy. It's just he had bad timing.
Timing.
He was a fun foil for these three characters, because you had to have something that was causing some kind of anxiety, angst, whatever, while they're on planet, right? So,
Besides Mariner just getting herself thrown in prison.
right, besides Mariner being arrested.
Oh, yeah, it's so good. Uh, I'm gonna miss the show so much.
Me, I hate you for getting me sucked into it. No, I don't, but I will miss it as well.
Well, let's move on to our next show. Matlock, season 1, episode 6, entitled 16 Steps. Yeah, another banger.
This show's just really good.
Just certified banger after certified banger.
I just, oh, I love it so much. I really loved with this episode, especially, we see a lot more of Maddie's humanity in this one. Her realness versus, that persona that she's built up at work. And I appreciated that because eventually, with the way with the way this is being set up, you have to have her realness bleeding more into her job the longer she's doing this double life, right? But luckily,
Right.
she's able to hide it by using that truth nugget that she's given her coworkers about how her daughter previously died. She can use that to her advantage with the emotionality of this case of these mothers that lost their child, and um and all that entailed with it. So I like how they seamlessly worked that in. Because I was a little concerned. I was like, how are they going to do it when it needs to kind of shift a bit to where her real life starts to bleed a bit more into this persona, right?
Yeah. And it's just Kathy Bates is giving like career worthy performances in this
If she
episode.
doesn't get nominated for an Emmy, I'm going to scream.
Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. And then like her at the end of the episode after the trial, with that realization of like, even if she goes through all of this, even if like she gets everything that she wants out of this,
Yep.
it won't fix anything.
Right. Her daughter will still be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, that breakdown she has with her husband is just so poignant, and it really shows that she is considering is she's doubting her motivations for what she's doing, right? And you see her go back to the office, and you can tell that she is ready to hand in her resignation and say, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. And then Julian drops the bomb of, we want you on the big pharma cases. And it's like, and she's right back in it because she's like, well, maybe I can make a difference.
Right. Yeah.
My daughter might not come back, but I can make a difference with other people. They still don't know what to do with her grandson, which makes me laugh so much. But
They have no idea. They just
they're like, we've introduced this character, and now we don't know what to do with him, so he's no longer on screen. We're just going to talk about him.
and Poochie died on the way back to his home planet. Yeah, no, that grandson's a huge problem.
It does continue, but hey, I'm also, because I review this obviously for my job. I had mentioned in one of the earlier reviews that I'm not convinced that Julian and Olympia are total toast, right? I was like, I'm not convinced that they're completely convinced in their own rights to going through with this divorce, and this case proved it, right? We get flashbacks of them working the case the first time, and we also see them in the current time reconciling with each other. They're having sexy times, they're having nice interactions with each other, they're questioning the divorce, and it's like, I saw this coming. My only other complaint about this episode was there was not enough of Sarah and
Oh
what's
yeah,
his name? I can't think of his name. I was like, this is the moment you realize they're actually secondary characters because the episodes still worked even though they weren't at the center of the story.
Right, right. Well, and like, and I think even like going forward, it's like if Maddie's going over to Pharma, you know,
Hmm.
like why would the show need to focus on these two after this? You know,
Hmm.
not just why, but also like how do you fit them in after this?
You know, which is so sad because I love Leah Lewis.
Yeah, I love Sarah. I want to figure out how she accepted that girl. Well, let's move on to our next show. Abbott Elementary, Season 4, Episode 6, entitled The Deli. Yeah, this is just a very silly Abbott Elementary episode that I appreciate a lot.
This is a very when they were like started bringing up gentrification. I'm like, oh, we're going there. Okay, that's fantastic, and it ended up being so hilarious. Like it was very, very much Barbara and Melissa. Like it was just oh so great.
Like, the thing I love about this is how much uh, Gregory was pro smoothie shop.
Yes,
For
which in
someone,
a weird way totally tracks.
yeah, for someone who like canonically has the weirdest food opinions.
I mean, the dude doesn't even like pizza. He has the wrong food opinions.
Yeah,
This is why a lot of people headcanon that he is autistic because they're like, he has very, very strong food opinions. And it's very interesting to me that he's okay with smoothies because he doesn't like other foods touching. But I'm like, but they can be mixed together. I guess that's fine. Like,
guess that's fine.
me personally, I don't have a problem with foods touching in my autism. And I love smoothies. So, like, that's not something that coexist in my brain. But then like Gregory says stuff like that, and then you look at him eating a smoothie, and it's like, sir, explain yourself. Explain this weird anomaly in your food opinions. He eats the blandest foods too, like.
But I also really enjoy uh, Ava's side of the episode,
Hmm.
and I guess just canonically, Ava is a good principal. We've just, as a show, decided that.
We have, and the fact that it's now becoming a widespread thing, like the district comes to her and is like, "We think you're a great principal. You need to teach others to how you do it." And it's just like, is she though?
Are you
And
sure
then I'm
about
like, yeah, I mean, I guess we do like her as the principal. We don't want anybody else being the principal at Abbott. So that makes sense. But of
that?
course, she does not know how to function when asked to do something, actually productive.
Yeah.
So the whole episode, she's trying to figure out what she's going to do. And then she finally does succeed. And she still does it in her own unique way, right? So, like, you're still like, all right, Ava, you haven't gone to the dark side completely. It's great. It's fine. We're good.
Yeah. Well, and it is interesting the way the show or the episode lines up. Like, here's actually how Ava is a good principal,
Right.
and you're like, yeah, I guess that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And it is nice to see Manny back now that we don't have to worry about him like being evil or something.
Right.
And I do love the running joke that the district hates Janine now.
Yeah.
But like they went to her they went to her party after she quit the job. So
Yeah, but that was just them being nice. That was just her being nice. Them being nice to her. Now they're just like, no, you quit. You are on the other side of the fence. We don't like you anymore.
Do not like you anymore. Yeah. And I love Janine having to deal with the kid who eats paper.
Oh my god, but her idea was very genius. Getting edible paper. Like, I would have never thought of that.
Good job, Ava. Well done.
Well done. This is one of the things about Abbott Elementary that I love a lot, is that we can have it has enough episodes per season for us to have little dips and peaks, throughout the season. But this show consistently, even when it's one of the lesser exciting episodes, it's still a decent episode. I don't think I've had a majorly negative reaction to any of these episodes of this show. And this one was, I don't know how to say it any better than just saying it was peak Abbott Elementary. Because it was, like, every element of it, when you look at it on paper, you're like, okay, we've got Gregory, Melissa, and Barbara fighting about a deli versus a smoothie shop. Oh, and then in the middle, we've got Janine trying to figure out some student who likes to eat paper. And then over here, we've got Ava trying to figure out how to present leadership skills to other educators. And it's like, these three topics should not intersperse together well at all, and this show manages it. I don't know how, but they did. Like, it all connected. Like, what?
That is it for this episode. Next week, I believe we will be trying to catch up on stuff we've missed. Who knows what that'll look like. Until then, Madge, where can we find you online?
You can find me, for now, on Twitter at DorothyNYC89, Instagram and Blue Sky at DorothyNYC89. And Tumblr, you can find me at MadsWorld15.
I am not on Twitter anymore. If you come search for me there, I will not be there. But I am on Blue Sky at Draconic. And yeah, there, everywhere else at that username. You can find the podcast on all social platforms at None of the TV Podcasts. And you can find previous episodes of the show on Apple and Spotify, along with whatever other podcasting device you use. Be sure to leave a review and subscribe. Every little bit helps. You can email us at notanotherTVpodcast at gmail.com with any thoughts, comments, questions you may have about the show, plus anything you would like to send our way. Until next week, please remember, don't go in the ocean. It's none of your business. Goodbye.